John Kennedy stormed off the View after a fiery showdown with Joy Behar under the bright studio lights of the View. The familiar round table glowed warmly as the audience buzzed with anticipation. The hosts Joy, Behar, Whoopi Goldberg, Sarah Haynes, and Sunny Hostin settled into their seats, ready to greet their next guest, who was not a Hollywood star or pop icon, but Senator John Kennedy from Louisiana, known for his folksy charm and sharp. It was his first time on a daytime talk show, and he came to discuss a community initiative aimed at revitalizing small towns through education and job training. Backstage, his team had prepped him thoroughly. Keep it light, stay on message, expect playful jabs, nothing he hadn't handled. Before feeling steady, he stepped out to applause, wearing a crisp navy suit, silver hair, neatly combed eyes, twinkling with the easy confidence of a seasoned politician. He shook hands with each host and settled into the guest chair as Whoopi warmly introduced him and asked about his project. Kennedy leaned forward, his drawl smooth as molasses, saying he was just a country boy trying to do some good, giving small towns a leg up with better schools and job training so people could build a future. Without leaving their roots, the audience clapped, and Sarah Haynes followed up with a funding question, prompting Kennedy to mix humor with details, quipping about pinching pennies tighter than his grandmama at a yard sale, drawing laughs even from Sunny. But then Joy Behar leaned in with her signature smirk and a tone dripping sharper than curiosity, saying this sounded noble, but wasn't just another politician's pet project to polish his image. Her words landed hard, laughter fading into an awkward murmur. Kennedy's smile held, but his eyes narrowed slightly. His team exchanged uneasy looks, knowing Behar loved to push buttons. Kennedy responded politely, yet firmly, inviting her to Louisiana to see herself, insisting it wasn't about cameras, but real people. Behar leaned back, smirking wider, saying, "Oh, come on, Senator, you've been in politics. How long you slap your name on a feel-good project, get some headlines, and call it a day. People at home aren't that gullible." The audience let out nervous laughs. Whoopi tried steering the conversation back, but Behar cut her off, zeroing in on Kennedy's folksy lines, asking if that was all he had, or if he was just distracting from another photo. Op, the air turned heavy warmth, replaced by tension. His team whispered frantically about, signaling producers to step in. Kennedy didn't flinch, leaning forward, voice low, saying, "Joy, he'd been called many things, true and not, but he didn't come to dodge questions. He came to talk about real people, and if Behar had a problem with him, fine. But don't pretend it was about the people he wanted to help." Applause broke out, some even cheering for his sincerity, but Behar wasn't done, tilted her head with mock pity, saying, "Spares the noble. Act, you're a politician. Your job is to sell a story. Helping people was just another chapter in the John Kennedy playbook." Sarah tried to reset, asking about on the ground impact, but Behar waved her off, determined to press harder, saying, wasn't it convenient this initiative popped up right when he was facing tough questions back home? Wasn't it a distraction? The audience grew quiet, sensing they crossed into confrontation. Kennedy's jaw tightened, a flicker of frustration breaking through. He'd faced tough opponents before, but Behar was questioning his character with relish. His team signaled producers again, but the control booth seemed frozen. Kennedy took a slow breath, tapping his fingers, a subtle storm brewing, before saying, "Joy," if she was implying he did this for political points. She was barking up the wrong tree. He'd spent his career fighting for those without a voice. This was no different. And don't pretend she knew what was in his heart. Applause erupted, louder this time, emboldened by his stand. But Behar leaned in conspiratorially, saying she didn't need to know his heart. She'd seen enough politicians to know how the game worked, calling his man of the people act tired, and asking when he'd try something new. It was a slap. The studio silent under the weight. Whoopi jumped in, urging respect, but her words fell under the moment. Kennedy's gaze locked on Behar, his folksy charm hardening, saying he came to talk about something that could change lives, not to be her punching bag. If she wanted a real conversation, he was all ears, but if she was just looking for laughs, maybe he wasn't the right guest. Gasps and some claps followed. Behar's smirk faltered briefly, then returned as she sighed, theatrically saying, "Oh, Senator, don't get so sensitive." If he couldn't handle pushback, maybe he wasn't cut out for this. Kennedy's fingers, still posture, stiffening, done playing nice. The other hosts exchanged worried glances as control room debated, cutting to break tension thick like air before a storm. Kennedy had arrived prepared for a friendly chat, but Behar's relentless needling turned it into a clash of personalities, a test of wills, leaving the audience leaning forward, sensing this was just the beginning, while Kennedy's team whispered frantically about managing the fallout if things got uglier. But Kennedy himself seemed unfazed, his gaze steady, and his resolve unbroken. He had faced tougher fights than this, and he was not about to let Joy Behar get the better of him as the cameras panned across the set, capturing the uneasy smiles of the hosts and the riveted expressions of the audience. One thing was certain: this was no ordinary episode of The View. It marked the beginning of a confrontation that would leave everyone talking, a moment destined to spark a national conversation and ignite partisan passions. The studio pulsed with restless energy as the second segment began, the crowd still reeling from the sharp opening exchange between Senator John Kennedy and Joy Behar. The bright lights cast long shadows across the round table, where Whoopi Goldberg, Sarah Haynes, Sunny Hostin, and Behar sat under strained veiled composure. Whoopi clutched her note cards too tightly. Sarah's smile wavered, and Sunny's face betrayed nothing, while Kennedy sat in the guest chair, composed in sharp navy suit, crisp silver hair gleaming. But it was the glint in his eyes that told the real story. He was not backing down his team, just offstage whispered frantically, their phones lighting up as clips from the explosive first segment began going viral. Sensing a ratings goldmine, the producers in the booth let the tension breathe, allowing the drama to unfold on air. What was supposed to be a discussion about Kennedy's Louisiana community initiative had quickly unraveled into a televised political duel, but Kennedy leaned forward, seizing the moment with his southern drawl and unmistakable confidence, telling Whoopi this initiative was about ladders, not handouts. In places like Minden, there were funding programs for skills like welding and nursing, allowing locals to work and remain rooted in their communities. He shared a story about a truck driver now fixing wind turbines, earning double what he made before, and the crowd responded, warmly clapping. As Sarah Haynes jumped in, asking how the programs would reach everyone in need, Kennedy began to explain outreach efforts lightheartedly, mentioning that they were hunting talent like his uncle hunted quail, quietly but with purpose. And for a moment the air seemed to relax, until Joy Behar leaned forward, once again her smirk sharp and deliberate. "Hold up, Senator. Let's not get too cozy with these stories," she said, laced with skepticism. "You've been in the Senate for years, whereas the big idea is this really about change, or just old policies and shiny?" Package, her words sliced through the atmosphere of the audience, murmured, some nodding, some recoiling from the heat of the question. And backstage, Kennedy's team, tense, one aide muttering, "She's going for blood." Kennedy's smile remained, but his fingers tapped the armrest, betraying a flicker of irritation. "Joy," he said, steady but pointed, "you're looking for a headline, not an answer. This isn't about reinventing the wheel. It's about using what works. We're putting proven ideas where they're needed most. You call that old, I call it getting the job done." The audience clapped, emboldened by his firm tone. But Behar didn't back down, crossing her arms and raising the stakes. "Getting the job done, Senator. Come on, you're known for those folksy zingers. But that's not leadership. It's a performance. People want fresh solutions, not the same playbook." With a southern accent, the insult struck deep. The room hushed. Whoopi tried to intervene, urging focus on the initiative, but Behar wasn't letting go. "No, Whoopi, I'm asking what people are thinking. When's the last time you took a bold swing, Senator? Or are you just riding the same horse you've always ridden?" The crowd gasped, sensing the confrontation tilting into dangerous territory. Kennedy's team signaled the producers, but the control room remained paralyzed, some craving the spectacle, others fearing it. Kennedy's jaw tightened, his drawl took on an edge. "Joy, I don't know what burrs under your saddle, but you're way off. I've spent my career fighting for those without a voice, and this initiative isn't theater. It's real work for real people. Betting on small towns isn't safe. It's bold." When the rest of the country is left behind, the crowd erupted, clapping, cheering, some standing. But Behar leaned in, voice mocking. "Betting on small towns, Senator, that's not bold. That's playing to your base. People are tired of politicians who rely on charm instead of vision. When are you going to do something that actually changes the game?" Her accusation hit hard, and the studio went silent. Attention, thick. Sunny Hostin attempted to pivot, asking about funding, but her voice was drowned out by the moment. Kennedy leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. "Joy, you're entitled to your view, but don't act like you know what drives me. I answer to the people of Louisiana, hard workers, raising families. Not this kind of spectacle you want. Vision, my vision is for every small town to have a future, not just the ones on TV. And that's what I'm fighting for, not your applause." The audience responded with thunderous cheers, his words cutting to the noise, but Behar's face flushed as she fired back, "Oh, please, Senator, you're not fighting for Louisiana. You're fighting for your image. This aw shucks act is your brand, and it's worn out. People want innovation, not recycled lines." The studio, when still audience divided between shock and awe. Kennedy's fingers stopped tapping, his posture straightened. "Joy, I came here to talk about helping folks, not to be your punching bag. But since you keep pushing, let me ask you something. When was the last time you used this platform to do more than stir up drama? When was the last time you offered solution instead of an insult? That's the real dodge here." The audience gasped, then cheered louder than ever, some shouting That's right, as Kennedy flipped the narrative, Behar's smirk faltered, her eyes narrowed. Don't flip this on me, Senator. I'm holding you accountable. And if you can't take it, maybe you don't belong in the spotlight. The jab was meant to sting, but the crowd's mix of boos and applause only fueled the fire. Kennedy shook his head, letting out a dry chuckle. Accountability joy. That's rich coming from someone who'd rather make a scene than have a real talk. I'm here for the people who need help, not for your ratings. And if you want to hold someone accountable, start with yourself. The audience exploded, leaping to their feet, shouting and clapping as the segment drew to a close. Behar opened her mouth to respond, but Whoopi cut and her voice strained. An urgent, all right, we're going to take a quick break. The camera scanned across the stunned hosts, an electrified crowd, capturing the chaos. As Kennedy sat back, eyes fierce, expression calm, ready for whatever came next. His team backstage knew they were now in the middle of a media storm. This was no ordinary talk show appearance. It was a defining political moment, and the battle was far from over when the third segment began. The studio felt like a pressure cooker ready to explode. The audience was no longer just watching. They were part of it, leaning forward in their seats, whispering among themselves as the theme music faded. The round table had become a battlefield. Whoopi clutched her note cards, trying to compose herself. Sarah offered a nervous smile, and Sonny sat in stone silence. Senator Kennedy still poised, but his jaw tight and eyes burning with quiet fury. His team backstage in full crisis mode, phones buzzing with viral alerts, while producers debated between shutting it down or riding the ratings wave. Whoopi opened the segment with a forced chuckle, saying things had gotten heated, and asked Kennedy to focus again.